Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome once again to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. This is episode 50. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Can't believe we've made it thus far. And 2 episodes away from completing that full year, although I think it'll be maybe 53 weeks or 54 episodes rather, potentially to get there to the exact date of when I started this whole show about 1 year ago. Appreciate all the support. Shout out Wrestling Nation. All the normal stuff. Juicy Steen on Twitter. Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. JuicySteen.podbean.com. Apple Podcasts. You can find the Juice Box as well as Google Podcasts. And if you do listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, please go to iTunes. Drop a review. Give me 5 straws. Really would be appreciated. Hodgepodge of stuff this week for the 50th episode, I gotta say. No guests, no interviews, nothing really too crazy, no predictions. Some little tidbits, ins and outs of stuff going on here on my end. As we'll get to, we'll, of course, do the normal. We'll tackle a little bit of SmackDown Raw from this past Monday. And then, of course, Dynamite this past Wednesday as SmackDown, featuring CM Punk's first SmackDown appearance in over 10 years, will be later tonight. Cannot wait to see that. 50th episode, pretty cool. A lot of interesting stuff to go over. First and foremost, shout out to frequent collaborator, contributor, former Chairshot Reality co-host alongside me, Juice Springsteen, one, the only Josh Eisenberg, who, alongside myself, won not one more, but another 2 Seinfeld Trivia contests in the past week and a half. Last Thursday, we were victorious in one. It took place at Bakery Square. And then we followed that up a couple of days later at Bingham Tavern on Monday, which was a grueling trivia contest. 35 teams were involved, and we won by 95 points. We had 714 points, and the next closest, I believe, was 619 points. So shout out to Josh, the only guy that I know that knows as much Seinfeld as I do. Really appreciate his friendship and, of course, his willingness to do these grueling trivia contests with me. They were really, the one on Thursday was quite a trip, and then Monday, oh my goodness, Monday was quite the test, but we got it done. And it's 3. That is 3 Seinfeld trivia contests that Josh and I have done this year, and we have won all 3. We aced the first one, we squeaked by in the second one, and we dominated the third one. Couldn't be happy with our success as Seinfeld fans, so here's to 2024 and more potential Seinfeld trivia contest victories. So shout out to Josh and our team name. Oh man, I sat in gum. Some little news and notes before we really tap in. We're also going to do an Ask Juice near the end of the episode. We will be talking Raw and WWE and then AEW and Dynamite. I also would like to touch on a moment of silence for the end of WWE DVDs and their production for the future. A sad day for a guy who, 10, 15 years ago was all in, no pun intended, getting mostly every WWE DVD release, at least every pay-per-view release. And, I got most of the documentaries that came out, DVD, then they went to Blu-ray, and I would get those. I stopped getting each new release probably around 2015, 2016. if even that, maybe 2014. I kept up with the pay-per-views until probably 2017. But outside of that, I have almost every pay-per-view that have been released from WWE from 1999 until 2014, maybe. I have a couple of holes there, and I just recently, after the news of this, went back and did pick up a title to a more vintage title to complete one of my years that needed to be completed in the pay-per-view realm. We'll get to all of that and a little bit later on. I'd like to have a real, long, lengthier discussion about the end of this WWE DVD run, because physical media is a huge deal to me. Wrestling is a huge deal to me. And then even more importantly, combined, wrestling, physical media is incredibly important to me. And I think it's incredibly important to the history and the preserving that history of pro wrestling. So we'll touch on that as we get closer to the end of the show. Ask Juice will close the show with a couple of CM Punk questions, I do believe. So let's get into a couple of just random things here. It has now been reported, not only will Will Ospreay wrestle, who, of course, he's under AEW contract beginning in February of 2024. Will Ospreay will be wrestling at the TNA, that's right, TNA, not Impact, the TNA tapings, the Snake Eyes tapings, I believe the second or third week in January. He will be wrestling, and I believe the opponent will be revealed of who he will be facing at those tapings at Final Resolution, which I think is this Saturday, if I am correct. And as of this recording, as a matter of fact, just maybe a half hour ago, it is now being reported and confirmed that Kazuchika Okada will be wrestling at the same tapings at TNA. TNA will have Will Ospreay and Okada on the same set of TV tapings. Is TNA about to become number 2 in North America? Maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but AEW been having some rough spots here recently, so we'll get into all that as well. Let's get into the WWE of it all. SmackDown, first of all, SmackDown April 19th is confirmed for Pittsburgh at PPG Paints Arena. That is, I believe, 2 weeks after WrestleMania 40, which takes place in Philadelphia. I think that's really awesome. Normally, Pittsburgh has historically had early March before WrestleMania shows, whether it be a Raw or a SmackDown. This past March, I do believe they had SmackDown, and then, of course, we had Payback, one of the better PLEs of 2023, in my humble opinion, that happened in Pittsburgh, and now we get Friday Night SmackDown on April 19th. Should be a fun show. I really like the placement of it. 2 weeks after WrestleMania. Not only do you not just get a SmackDown after WrestleMania, but it's only 2 weeks, so you don't get the, normally the week after Raw and SmackDown, the Raw after Mania used to be a huge deal, and now they just call it WrestleMania Raw, WrestleMania SmackDown. They just kind of milk it. And I think the week after is the one where you start getting more in tune with what could happen at Backlash, which I do believe is going to be in France, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll be, leading up to that show, which I think is really cool. So who really knows? At this recording, it's December, the first week of December. And, CM Punk is back in WWE, and, a lot of things are changing and happening. By 2024, by April of 2024, whether that be at WrestleMania or, 2 weeks after the show, who knows who's going to be on the roster by then? Could it, could CM Punk be at this SmackDown? Is he going to be on SmackDown or Raw by then? There's just a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. Who's going to be there from, the Rumble could have surprises that we won't see until, January. We won't know, but anybody, could fall into this category of you just don't know what you're getting into if you get tickets to this SmackDown. I like that intrigue of it. So we'll have to see what happens. But, yeah, I got my ticket. I will be there. Looking forward to that show. As I do most live shows. I really love live pro wrestling. I think it's really unlike most other forms of entertainment. The crowd is energetic. You can really feel the vibe and electricity, especially on a TV show. Even though the commercials sometimes drag shows down, at least it's not Raw. Raw is really kind of tough to do live because of 3 hours. There's always breaks. There's always some filler. SmackDown really kind of goes by quick in that 2-hour frame, so I can't say enough good things about it. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's get into, as we discuss WWE, let's get to this past week on Raw, where we had a lot of interesting stuff go down, including a main event world title match between Jey Uso, and Seth freaking Rollins. Interestingly enough, we had Drew McIntyre defeating Sami Zayn. Zayn got, an injury angle potentially after this, so who knows how long he could be out if he's written off TV. I would say, dare I say, here in December, is Sami Zayn a potential early Royal Rumble match winner favorite? I don't know. I think there's quite a few guys that could be penned as potential Royal Rumble winners at this time, but get back to me as we begin January, and I can maybe narrow it down, but I think there's quite a few guys still definitely in the running to be that Royal Rumble winner. I stated a while back that I think the final four of the Royal Rumble could be Gunther, Grayson Waller, rather, not Austin Theory. See, aren't they just interchangeable? Grayson Waller is better, though. Grayson Waller, Gunther, Randy Orton, and LA Knight. So I think those guys are going to be the final four. It's great that Randy Orton is now back, so that can kind of, I've been saying that for a while now, so that'd be cool to see him actually get involved and potentially be in that final four. Additionally, we had a couple of things here on Raw. DIY Imperium had a nice little match. Great tag match, of course. DIY gets the win. I'm still just waiting for the tag titles to split and be more of something. So until that happens, these random intermittent tag matches that have nothing really going on, no stakes, doesn't do too much for me, unfortunately. I'd like to see some more consistency in the tag division. But I think in time, we'll see more and more in the tag division, depending on if those titles actually get disbanded. Like I said earlier, with WrestleMania coming, you really don't know. Because especially, man, if Cody wins, you don't know if we can get a different title altogether, like a design of the world title, the WWE Undisputed Universal. If the tag titles potentially get split up, or if there's a new design of that, there's a lot of different things that could happen by WrestleMania next year. So we'll have to see what does happen, if in fact anything does. Man, you want to talk about an up-and-coming team that has done so well for themselves in NXT, and now we are now seeing some, real great stuff come to fruition from the Creed brothers. Now, I mean, Bill Apter put this out there, and it's not that I thought of this first, but I maybe subconsciously I've been thinking this, that the Creed brothers, and maybe it took Bill Apter for me to see this, the Creed brothers are very, very reminiscent and are almost a blueprint of what the Steiner brothers were and are, what the Creed brothers are. I mean, they're hard-hitting, they're super athletic, very versatile in the ring, great mat wrestling, and just high intensity all around. And that's exactly what the Steiner brothers were. So I love the Creed brothers now being a part of Raw, and the Creed brothers got the win over Mysterio, Dom, and JD McDonough, and now Priest and Balor. You're going to have to defend those titles against the Creed brothers here at some point. So we'll have to see how that goes, if they're going to give the titles to the Creed brothers, if they're going to win, or keep it with the Judgment Day. I'd also, just a little note, Ivy Nile, who I think is definitely someone who could help the women's division, as if the women's division really needs help. That's really not what I'm saying. It's just another piece of depth for that women's division would be Ivy Nile if they get her in some singles matches. So I'm looking forward to a lot. Again, the future is still looking bright. NXT for a while had been such a huge breeding ground for talent. And the rebranding of 2.0 and just how it kind of turned out into what it is now was kind of frustrating to some fans, but ultimately I liked where the direction of the NXT brand is going. Primarily the fact that you get gimmicks that WWE want, like WWE is making these gimmicks and honing them in on NXT and then dishing them out to Raw and SmackDown to make them palatable for the main audience. They test them out in NXT and ride them through NXT. They don't just blindly bring people in. They definitely have an idea of what they want and how they want it to look and be presented. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more from the Creed brothers. Hopefully they can take the titles away. I'd like to see another team get them. Rollins and Jey Uso. Main event, Jey Uso. Seth gets the victory. And then McIntyre comes through and just destroys Jey Uso. And it looks like he's going to be the main, just big, bad, tough guy. I'm not sure if I'd call him a heel yet, but he is just looking for a fight. I mean, he did that headbutt to the title to Seth a couple, on Raw, and was bleeding hard way, and now he's destroying Jey Uso, and I think he wants the title. I think we might see him, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins world title match coming soon. Whether that happens at Royal Rumble or not is still up for debate, and that's where the CM Punk of it all comes in, and we'll get to the Ask Juice questions towards the end of the show, where CM Punk in the title picture is concerned. I will discuss that in more depth when we get there. So a fun little episode of Raw. We still have Shinsuke and Cody definitely going forward. Seems like the Rumble's going to be the move there. A lot of good in-ring work as well. And just solid stuff all around. Again, this is that time of the year where nothing really happens. It's not even January yet, so we can't look forward to the Rumble just yet. I know Cody declared himself the Royal Rumble, but that's really just about all we have at the moment. But be that as it may, let's get into some AEW. Interesting stuff, of course. So the the Continental Classic. I'm a fan of all wrestling, so I am conditioned to be aware of items across any company, across any brand, across any country. And, New Japan Pro Wrestling is a part of that. Excuse me there. It's peak season at work, so excuse me if I'm a little tired, but here we are. So New Japan has the G1 Climax, which is an incredible tournament that spans a couple of weeks and culminates in, a final match. I remember when Kenny Omega won. It was a huge moment for him, and it's been a huge moment for anybody that has been fortunate enough to be in the tournament or to win the tournament. It's a really nice honor and piece of hardware, nice for the resume, if you will, to have that under your belt. AEW comes into the fray, and they like tournaments. They love tournaments. They love announcements. They love tournaments. They love, creating stakes, which I can't knock AEW for. People might say they have too many titles, and this is just another, quote, pointless tournament for a, quote, pointless championship or triple crown or whatever fans that are negative of this type of thing would say. But even so, it's just seeing these brackets and the little... You ever watch Game Show Network and the show Lingo was on? That was one of my favorite shows to watch. And it would have the little 5-letter bingo ball placement of letters. And you had a chance to solve the puzzle each time. That's exactly what these Gold League and Blue League tournament the graphics look like. It's interesting to see them and to see casual fans, and not even casual fans, just fans of AEW that may just not get, get it. And it's I think a lot of wrestling fans really don't want to do more than they have to understand a storyline or to understand a tournament. I would like to now defer to a message from, a frequent fan of mine. Actually, not a fan of mine, just a fan of, Chair Shot, close friend. Met him a few times, hung out with him a few times. His name will not be released here, but private text message. And he said, most wrestling fans can't think, so a G1 tournament is like a puzzle for them. And that's exactly what I'm thinking here. It's just, you can't always satisfy every fan. You can't always give fans everything that they want. Sometimes you got to go out of the box. Sometimes you got to do something that New Japan did, but do it your own way. And even if it looks kind of confusing on a graphic, it's going to work. The matches have worked. That's what I want to get to. Even if it looks, bizarre on a graphic and whatnot, it's just the matches have proven to be really, really solid. And I don't really care. I think it's going to be fun once we get down to the nitty gritty and we get a final match, I believe at World's End, with, whoever wins either league in this Continental Classic. But let's get to it. Dynamite, we had a lot of good stuff. We had 5 matches. They were all great. Jon Moxley defeated Rush in a great match in the Continental Classic Gold League. Mox looked great. Rush took offense to apparently passing out, but not really passing out. He never tapped out, but that's what happened. Moxley gets the 3 points. Swerve Strickland defeated Mark Briscoe in a damn good match. Swerve Strickland now has 9 points, and Strickland versus Moxley is next week at Winter is Coming. Wow. That is a pay-per-view match that is going to be free once again on TV. Almost sounds like a former company that used to do stuff like that. But Tony Schiavone wouldn't accidentally call AEW WCW after going over promo for All In that they've been promoting the tickets for 4 weeks, even though the show's in August of 2024. But that's just me. Swerve versus Moxley next week is going to be great. Swerve is ascending to a high level. He might win this Continental Classic for all intents and purposes. I'm not sure if that'll necessarily mean that he's going to get a world title shot upcoming, but I mean, man, if you win something like that, I think you have every reason to potentially get a world title opportunity, or at least you definitely seem to have earned one with that tournament win, but we'll see. Jay Lethal and Jay White had a great match. Jay White gets the victory over Jay Lethal. The Battle of the Jays, where Jay Lethal had the best of Jay White years ago in Ring of Honor. And now, all these years later, and Jay White's arguably one of the best pro wrestlers in the world. So, a lot of good stuff in the in-ring. As you know, it is, as always, AEW, for as much as it, this is what I want to kind of get into here, is, AEW's had tough, ticket sales. We've seen the photos of Collision where they show the hard cam and it's blank, nothing, barely a couple people in there. We've seen, some of these wrestling ticket Twitter handles, and they go over all the tickets and stuff of what, how many tickets are being sold at these shows and what have you. And in that, it's like, so many tickets are distributed and so many have been sold already. And it's been tough for AEW recently, even with a lot of talent. Meanwhile, WWE is on, firing on all cylinders. They're about to be in WrestleMania mode here as soon as we turn the page to 2024. So all that, and you've had some tough injuries. Bryan Danielson can't seem to stay healthy. You've got people, having a tough time maybe getting time on TV, being vocal about it. A lot of stuff going on that is not positive. And with all of that, it's tough to see a positive to a lot of the stuff that AEW has been doing. Now, that being said, it's just been tough. I would say that, Tony Khan loves to have 100% control over storytelling, creative, what have you. But I feel like that definitely does limit AEW. With the morale, as reported by Dave Meltzer, potentially being lower or just hurting morale, I feel like that's contributed to by the bloated roster. And with the momentum, like I said, with WWE, it's tough. Tony doesn't really have to, answer to many people, if anybody. So there's not as much accountability. There's shareholders and boardroom members that have to say, hey, look, WWE, what are you doing? Why does this suck? Why does this product suck? AEW's like, well, Tony Khan likes it, so let's put it out there. If it doesn't work, well, we'll try something else, and that approach can be successful, but I mean, how many times can it be unsuccessful before the fans start turning on it, let alone, dare I say, their own roster turning on them, on the company? But, of course, the bell-to-bell is great. That's what I just kind of described to you, everybody. But, this is something else that's been noticeable since the beginning. The bell-to-bell is great, but AEW has been really just catered almost exclusively to the hardcore fans. No matter how many guys from WWE that they sign, it's very tough to compete with AEW bell-to-bell in ring. It's honestly some of the best wrestling I've ever seen on TV and on pay-per-view, just incredible stuff. But very few of the storylines that AEW can put out are up to par with what WWE does week to week. If someone else outside of Tony Khan, or who I guess if he has a board of people that he looks to, if someone else could critique the show, maybe have some accountability there, maybe the shows would improve. Maybe they'd sell more tickets. Maybe they'd have better ratings. There's a lot that could be done there. And it's just interesting to me, the entire dynamic of AEW, because again, I'm reading off, going off all these matches that have happened, and they're so good. The in-ring is incredible, but the storylines lack. And then you hear news, the roster's unhappy, and then you look and it's a huge roster. Why wouldn't it be? There's only so many hours to fill. And, if those guys and girls, don't get on TV, they're going to be upset. And then when they do get on TV, they're performing in front of 4,000-5,000 fans, and it's not the best environment. And you can't just, deal with that and be okay with that. So there's just a lot going on with AEW. I want them to succeed. I want every wrestling company to succeed, but it is tough when you see a company like WWE, of course, They've been doing it for 60 plus years. They have shareholders. They have people to hold them accountable. They have a huge team of people. Their roster is honed in. They have a lot of guys that have been there for a long time that lead the locker room, etc., etc. AEW has only been around for almost 5 years now, and even so, it's just very difficult to just maintain a semblance of we're better than anything outside of in-ring. In-ring can only take you so far. It caters to the hardcore fan, and I think that the hardcore fans absolutely appreciate it, almost to a detriment, almost to a fault, where they're so loyal to AEW that they're blind to not see that there's problems happening. They don't want to admit that AEW has any problems, but they're there, and I'd like to see them right the ship and help those problems turn into some success, but time will tell. Meanwhile, TNA is coming back in 2024, and who knows what they've got on the horizon. They got Okada and Ospreay working shows on TV, so who's to say? Here's another interesting nugget. Hangman Page and MJF had a little backstage deal, and then Samoa Joe kind of got in the way of that, and then we see a potential Joe MJF. They're going to face the masked guys. Samoa Joe goes to the ring. The masked guys surround the ring. And then they cut to a promo backstage. Well, not a promo, but you look backstage and MJF is attacked. He's face down with a broken beer bottle, the world title on the ground. No blood, no assailant. So here's some theories. Could it be beer money? I'm kidding. Could it be Hangman Page? Noted drinker. I don't know if he'd waste a bottle unless it was finished. And he did have a little bit of an interaction with MJF earlier in the night. Could it be MJF? Who, no blood. Definitely could have had a piece of sugar glass in that bottle, just to break it over his own head. Did a little Eddie Guerrero thing and put himself face down. Very, very well could have been the case. Could it be Wardlow, who last week, after a segment featuring the Devil and those four guys, Wardlow comes out. His hair is a little disheveled, a tad askew, you might say. Why was that? Was that because he had a mask on his head? Interesting stuff. This past week, those fine Twitter detectives saw the boot that was on Wardlow's foot matched a boot that was worn by the Devil in a previous segment. So is that potentially what it is? Or is it MJF himself purely because, he wants tough guys around him? Is it MJF with Wardlow? You ever see that coming? Who knows? Another interesting theory, of course, is Jack Perry. With CM Punk going to WWE, it's going to be wild if Jack Perry is revealed as the Devil, because it's just the two guys that were at the head of the latest problem at Wembley, and to see those guys be potentially at the forefront of two companies. Although it's not like Jack Perry would be the forefront of a company, but if he's the Devil and they invest a lot of time in it, it'd be interesting. But the time where, was it Max Caster that was thrown through glass, or was it Anthony Bell? Whoever was thrown through the glass, it was a glass spot, remember? And that was the whole Crimea River. This is real glass with Jungle Boy Jack Perry and CM Punk, and then a glass beer bottle. If there's another injury or angle with MJF and glass takes place in part of it, I would almost assume that it's going to be Jack Perry. I don't know if I want it to be Jack Perry. I've been quite the proponent of Jack Perry having the charisma of a quarter. So we will see what happens. If that's the thing, do we think that World's End is where the Devil is revealed? Will it be revealed on TV? It's very interesting. I don't know what the plan is with that in general, but I'd like it to be. It's got to be something big. You cannot plan this if it's not huge. And not only that, if they're with 4 other guys, you got to think that the 4 other guys have to be something, again, worth it. Could it be the Pinnacle? Could it be FTR in there? There's a lot of avenues that you could go down here to unveiling the Devil. And if the Devil really does have these 4 guys, what are they going to be, a faction? Who they call? There's a lot of different things that could be done here, and we'll have to just see as time goes on what that's going to be. And then finally, this was a fascinating Montreal. Actually, let's get to another quick match. Sky Blue did not, unfortunately, dethrone Timeless Toni Storm, although I'm a big fan of both these women. Timeless Toni Storm retains her AEW Women's title. And of course, we had Ben Mankiewicz from Turner Classic Movies fame introducing Timeless Toni Storm in what was just an amazing intro to her and her entrance in the show, or for the match. And the match was pretty good. Timeless Toni Storm retains. And then we get the returning Rio coming out, who seems to be the prospective next challenger. And I don't know. Rio's not really been consistent on TV. Sky Blue has been doing a lot on TV recently and doing really well. And I don't know. I think Sky Blue, it's not that she has to win the title, but I could see her challenging and being more realistic of a challenger as she's been on TV more recently. But I do like Rio's character, and I think that Rio and Timeless Toni Storm could have a good little program. So I'm here for that as well. Let's get to the final match of the night. This had people talking, for sure. We had, in Montreal, Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, the WWE Alter Bridge music, the TNA Christian Cage music in an AEW arena. I love the dynamic here. These 2 guys, longtime friends, longtime partners, legitimately friends for over, 35 plus years. One-on-one, once again, free TV. And of course, and the finish to this match, not a big fan of this finish. We had back and forth, the referee is down, and then of course, because obviously, Nick Wayne's mom, Shayna Wayne, comes in, and look, at 2015 SummerSlam, where it was my first trip to New York, my first SummerSlam, that had the infamous Seth Rollins versus John Cena match where Jon Stewart interfered and teased like he was going to hit Seth Rollins, and he hit John Cena instead. I called that ahead of time. I thought it was a great idea, and they did it. And it was, it took a little time for it to develop, and then boom, he did the turn and he hit Cena. Amazing. Not a wrestler, and he pulled it off. Shayna Wayne, unfortunately, not a wrestler. I feel like that came from Nick's father, but although Nick's father is now Christian, so he's learned a lot. But Shayna Wayne is nobody Wayne, and I gave it maybe 10 seconds of will I or won't I hit either guy, and then immediately hits Adam Copeland, and she stumbled while she tried to hit him, and it looked awkward, and it was a glancing, glaring, grazing blow at best. And Christian Cage gets the win. Here's the thing. I did love the double spear spot because Christian did adopt the spear well after Edge retired in WWE, which I thought was amazing. And he kind of made it his own, his own little thing. So I like the double spear. Never really saw that before. I wouldn't chance, either guy's neck, especially Adam Copeland's neck, in a spot like that. But here's my thing. The finish, it did suck, but I only look at this as one way and one way only, and it's probably going to happen at World's End if I had to take a guess, and that would be Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage in a ladder match. I think it's the only way to do it. I'm sure you could pull off a cage match to prevent any potential interference, but a ladder match kind of gives you that as well. And I just really think a ladder match between those two guys is exactly what needs to happen. They're older guys. I'm sure it's riskier, but who knows? I would be here for that. Let's get into the WWE DVD of it all. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much further than what I said already. WWE DVDs are no longer being produced. I picked up Payback 2023 recently. I did recently pick up SummerSlam 2001 to complete the 01 set. It's just sad, from VHS tapes to DVDs, Blu-rays. It's just physical media in general for WWE has been such a huge deal for so long. Coliseum Video, WWE Home Video, just having the pay-per-views, owning the shows, owning the documentaries, seeing this rare footage, seeing and owning things that you never could before, really meant a lot. And then the WWE Network, and for a while it was the only way to do it, mind you. Then WWE 24/7 came out. It was on-demand content, but if you didn't get to watch something that month, it was gone, and by the next month, you hope that something else was on that you could watch, and maybe you could record it from the TV. And then the WWE Network comes February 24th, 2014. We're almost on the 10-year anniversary of the network becoming a thing. And ever since that happened, wrestling has been better. Watching wrestling, classic wrestling, it's all been great. And you can watch it at any point. It's so nice to have that access. Watch WWE, WCW, ECW pay-per-views, anything. A lot of old Raws, SmackDown, literally anything. New documentaries, all of it. And then the library goes to Peacock. And when it goes to Peacock, it is just... Some things are still edited down. Now look, things have been edited down before. WrestleMania 17, I've mentioned this plenty of times. You do not hear Limp Bizkit's My Way at all. I know, some people might not like Limp Bizkit. Some people might not care for that, and it might not matter to them. But if you were living in that time and you watch those shows as they happened in 2001, you know how important My Way was to that particular pay-per-view and how important theme music was to all of WWE at that time. When it goes to the network, when it goes to Peacock, they don't have that. They don't pay the licensing music fees for that anymore. And sometimes they edit stuff out. Sometimes you just don't have access to it. So that's my point here. Physical media, owning this content is the only way to have certain things like that. Not even like the WrestleMania anthology set that came out a while back. They had the edited scratch logo. It was just like blurred out. You can get the original WWF WrestleMania 17 DVD, and it's got everything intact. Nowadays it's a very expensive DVD, and there's quite a few DVDs that are in the upper echelon of price range when you get into stuff like that with the no editing of the blurs and all that stuff. Everything's straight up as it was from recording. Now it's all gone. They're never going to produce these again. 2023 seems to be the final year. Survivor Series 2023, which is a hell of a show to go out on if that's going to be the case. Could be potentially the final WWE DVD to be produced. It'll be interesting to see what I do on a personal note, selfishly. I think I'd like to at least go back because I'd say there's probably 7 or 8 full years I don't have. So from like 2017, 2016 to now, I don't have everything, other pay-per-view wise. I'd like to own, if this is really it, all the pay-per-views would be really cool to have, but I think I'm more invested in any Pittsburgh PLE or pay-per-view that happened, so I still need Extreme Rules 2018, and any show I've been to, which also would include Hell in a Cell 2019, I think would be nice to own, and I think I'm going to try to also back catalog any WrestleManias that I don't have as well. So just to boost up what I've already procured over the countless years that I used to have a YouTube channel. I still have the YouTube channel, but I used to produce a lot of videos back in the day about my DVD collecting, and that was really like the basis for how I got here now. I started out doing those. I had a wrestling figure federation. I was all about pretty much everything wrestling. I started discussing wrestling on radio shows and Blog Talk Radio, and here we are with the Juice Box here in 2023. So it's just really unfortunate to see physical media going away across the board, in movies as well. Now, there's definitely boutique labels, and you can order things online, and even though Best Buy's not going to have them anymore and sell them, you can still get a lot of 4Ks, Blu-rays, DVDs, Amazon, amongst other places. But for WWE, this is sad. Seems like they're not going to produce them anymore. The market's just not there. I know AEW is doing DVDs now, so that's something, but on the WWE side, the cream of the crop, they're just not doing it. So maybe that's a sign, a huge company doing big things right now, a lot of major profits going on, making a lot of money. Doesn't seem like they need to do a DVD business anymore. It's not going to make them any more money, so let's just cut it and move forward. So as unfortunate as that is, such is life. Not everything lasts forever, and I'm just going to hold on to my DVDs as long as I can and preserve that wrestling history for as long as I'm on this planet. Let's get into Ask Juice. We had two pertinent CM Punk questions, and they kind of go intertwined with each other, so I'm going to answer them kind of both at the same time. One comes from Josh Cross. Shout out Josh Cross, Wrestling Nation as well. And shout out Matt Presto, as always, who is a frequent asker of a question here on Ask Juice. We have a two-part question. I'm going to say both, but I'm going to answer them all. How does CM Punk change any WrestleMania plans, and do you think he has a chance to end Roman's reign? And then, do you think CM Punk holds a world title within the next 6 months? If so, would it be the newer World Heavyweight title? With that particular title, though, it's supposed to be defended frequently, and the champion's supposed to be on TV almost every week. Thus, the point of the belt, as opposed to Roman Reigns holding one title forever. People at this point are expecting CM Punk to be a kind of, an attraction of some sort, kind of on that Lesnar schedule. So I'll kind of do both those things here. How does CM Punk change any Mania plans? I think it enhances them. I think you have a potential for CM Punk and Seth Rollins. I think you have a legitimate chance this year, maybe next year as well, but definitely this year, for CM Punk versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think that's a very interesting and intriguing idea that could happen. I don't think CM Punk will end Roman Reigns' reign. I think Cody Rhodes is going to finish the story at WrestleMania. And I think that's the right call. But I don't think CM Punk is going to be that guy. I think it'd be cool to have those guys have a match before Roman is not champion anymore. But if that match happened, I think Roman still goes over. So it'll be interesting to see what that if they do interact before it's all said and done, Punk and Roman. But I'm not necessarily sure if they'll interact as champion in an actual title match. So I'd like to see CM Punk and Roman, but I'm just not sure if that'll happen as Roman as champ, with Roman as champion in that regard. But I think they will definitely have some sort of match at some point, which, again, should be big box office. But again, with the Mania plans, no. I think if it affects Mania, it's just enhancing WrestleMania. It's another huge star you can put on night 1 or night 2. You can give him the main event on night 1 and satisfy what CM Punk has wanted his entire career, and that is to main event WrestleMania. He never got to do it. He was potentially going to do it at 29. Didn't happen. He had to... he faced Undertaker, but he definitely could have been involved in a potential a triple threat match with Cena and The Rock. Didn't happen. There's a lot of things that could have happened that just didn't pan out for CM Punk back in the day. But now there's definitely a chance for him to get involved in a main event way at WrestleMania. So we'll see. I think it definitely enhances it, though. And then to the other point of CM Punk potentially holding a world title within the next 6 months, I would say within the next year, it's very possible. I would say by WrestleMania 41, I would be shocked if CM Punk doesn't win a world title in WWE. Of course, he doesn't need a world title to be a major player. However, I think it would enhance WWE tenfold if CM Punk is world champion once again. It didn't do a lot for AEW. I think it would do a lot for WWE. So I would actually sign off on that immediately. If he's the world heavyweight champion, sure. The standard is being Seth Rollins defending it. He just defended against Jey Uso. He defended against Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker. He's defended it across multiple brands. So I think that is something that Punk probably won't do. But I'm not going to say he won't do it. I think he could go to NXT and defend it if he were champion against someone. I think a guy like CM Punk really turns that intrigue up even more. Again, Seth Rollins has that intrigue already. He used to be in NXT. It's fun to go back and forth, and he's done a lot since then. CM Punk was out of WWE by the time NXT got to a point of being on the network and having takeovers and being a huge deal. So I'd love for him to go to the black and gold brand, and I don't think it would be a demotion. If he was world heavyweight champion and someone on that brand wanted to challenge him for a title, I would absolutely love to see that. So we'll see. I don't think he has to be on TV every week, at least not wrestle every week. And I think people that are fans of CM Punk would enjoy if he was champion to be on every week, even if he's just cutting promos or setting up new matches every couple weeks. If his body can hold up, I think you could do that for a year long or maybe a little less reign. I don't think it's anything too crazy. Like I said, I would be shocked by WrestleMania 41 if CM Punk has not won a world title in WWE. But that's just me. He might not win one. But I think he definitely could win a WrestleMania win a match at WrestleMania, have a match, the main event match at WrestleMania, probably night 1 at 40. If not, he definitely has a main event at 41. But I would be shocked if he's not world champion by 41. So we'll have to see. But again, just the fact that we're talking about this is very exciting. I love that CM Punk's back in WWE. It's pretty crazy that we're talking about this now. It's pretty crazy that we have had 50 episodes of the Juice Box, but here we are. Thank you for listening to this show. Really appreciate everybody that does listen to this program. Anybody on Twitter that follows me or on Instagram that follows me. I really try to put my best foot forward with this show and really hope everybody enjoys it. It's for the fans, by a fan. I refer to myself as a pro wrestling analyst with a journalism degree, but I think at the deep root of it all, in my heart, I am still and always will be a pro wrestling fan. So this show is for you and us, the pro wrestling fans. So really appreciate all the support, Wrestling Nation. Anybody that listens to this show, really appreciate you listening. Like I said, Juicy Steen on Twitter, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, juicysteen.podbean.com, Google Podcasts, you can find the Juice Box, Apple Podcasts, you can find the Juice Box. And if you do listen to it on Apple Podcasts, go to iTunes, drop a review, give this show 5 stars, or as I like to say here on the Juice Box, because of course it's a Juice Box, 5 straws. So appreciate you guys listening. Episode 50 is in the books. Episode 51 comes next week as we are still rolling towards Royal Rumble, almost beginning the road to WrestleMania, and I was almost going to say World's End, which happens at the end of this month. Looking forward to that show as well. A lot of exciting stuff here in December of 2023. Can you believe we're almost in 2024? We are months away from the 40th WrestleMania. Can't believe it. But here, we got the 50th episode of the Juice Box. So appreciate you guys listening. As always, I'm Juice Springsteen. I'll see you guys next week for another edition of the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.